Hi, I'm Randy Char, President of Las Vegas Sotheby's International Realty. I bring over 25 years of experience in this industry. We're about to take you on a journey of an elevated Las Vegas lifestyle. Enjoy the ride.
Who alive can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I whip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a Scotch bonnet. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a phenomenon.
Welcome to Vegas. Hey, welcome back. Randy Char here. I am here with our distinguished guest, Greg Woods. He's the CEO and owner of Cirrus Aviation. How you doing, bud?
Excellent, Randy. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to catch up with us. I think we all are wondering, where are we? We're in an airplane hangar, a wonderful airplane hangar, great planes around us. Greg, this is a company that obviously you've built up from the beginning. I remember meeting you several years back, and you had a few planes, and now you are the largest private aviation company in Las Vegas. Is that correct?
Yeah, by far. And I think we just made top 10 by charter hours in the U.S.
Wow, congratulations. So, well, take me back. How did it all get started? How did you join the business here?
My family's been in aviation for a very long time. And my dad was running a similar company to this one, and he had a fight with his business partners. Things didn't go so well, and he ended up without that business. So we decided to try again. And so my brother, my dad, and I started the company in 2008 with one airplane, and today we have over 30.
Wow, over 30. Yeah, that's fantastic. And, I'm just kind of curious, what are some of the benefits of private air travel? I mean, some of them are obvious, but in your mind, what's the biggest reasons why people fly private?
It's mainly flexibility, and it's a time machine. It saves you so much time. We can talk about people going on business trips. Maybe they're taking their executive team with them, and they have to go visit 3 or 4 properties. With the current state of airlines and hubbing and spoking, that could take you 3 or 4 days, depending where the cities are, where in a private aircraft, you might be able to do it in 1 day. And so if you have a team of 8 people with you and you save even 2 days of travel, that is 16 days of your executives, which is basically a half month of somebody working.
Right. No, I could see that. That could definitely compound when you talk about the number of people flying. And hey, we're just talking about maybe 8 major airport to major airport, but many times clients need to get to secondary or tertiary markets. Probably takes even that much longer, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you try to take a major airline, maybe you've got to fly into a major city and then rent a car and drive for 3 or 4 hours. Whereas if you have your own aircraft, there's over 5,000 airports in the U.S. that we can fly into. So generally, there's an airport within a half an hour of where people are going.
Wow, fantastic. And so, who are your customers? Would we be surprised by the type of owners that have planes here?
Most of our owners are just successful business people. We have a few celebrities. Obviously, a lot of our clients are celebrities and people in and out of the Strip. But most of our clients and the ones that are easiest to deal with are the business people who just want to get where they're going and do what they're doing.
Now, is there any particulars about, having private air travel out of Las Vegas versus maybe another city? Is there different travel patterns that are kind of unique to Vegas, or, how would you characterize it?
Vegas is definitely a entertainment destination. So there's a lot of traffic flow based around Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday. That said, our planes tend to float all over the place, so we fill in. I mean, we've got planes in Europe right now. We have planes on the East Coast. We have planes in Central America. So they end up all over the place. But definitely for people that are local here in Vegas, I think if they like to get away, especially for our owners and things, if they like to get away on a weekend, we can almost always cut their travel costs in half or to zero by backfilling it with tourists coming to Vegas.
So let me get this right. You're saying because of the normal traffic patterns of people generally coming into Vegas in for the weekend and out, if you live in Vegas and you're flying a different direction, then tell me again why that works in their favor.
Well, so say, for example, you live in Vegas and you want to go to Napa for the weekend and you're going to go out on a Friday. Well, the Bay Area is a really strong area for people who want to come to Vegas. So what we'll do is we'll advertise, as long as we have a little bit of notice, we will advertise to the wholesale markets and all the people who are in the Bay Area saying, hey, come to Vegas. We'll sell you a round trip at a discounted price because our plane's already going to be up there. And when we do that, we will pay for the entire cost for the owners, or we might even make them money while they're on their trip.
Wow, that's amazing. I know over the years, many of my clients and friends, they've come your way. You've always taken great care of them, and they've taken advantage of some of what you're talking about. But obviously, we have those that occasionally use your services for a trip to, on a vacation or an event. I have others that have purchased planes from you as well.
Yep.
What are the different reasons or the ways that people could kind of use air travel with you?
The way they use it, there's different ways, there's different reasons people own airplanes. I think that's where you're trying to,
Yeah.
where you're getting at.
It's kind of rent versus buy scenario. Yeah.
Yeah. When you start getting to about 100 hours, 75 to 100 hours a year of travel, then you're definitely running into the spot where it could make sense to own an aircraft. If you get beyond that, it's almost no question that it makes sense to own an aircraft. And then different people account for planes in different ways. So the furthest way is if someone's looking at it as a investment and maybe they're going to barely use the aircraft at all. So then they want to buy a plane, they want the finance payment paid for, they want all the overhead paid for, they want depreciation of the asset paid for. And then they want a return on investment of some amount. And different people have different thresholds. That's why it's always good to talk to the actual buyers and understand what they're trying to do, what is the outcome that they want, so we can let them know if it's realistic or what the percentages are that we're going to hit their numbers. And then there's the far other side of the scale where it's somebody who wants to buy an airplane, they just don't want it to cost them too much when they travel because they are sure that they want to be able to get around and they understand the benefits of flying private. Then they often will buy an aircraft. They're not so worried about the depreciation of the asset or maybe even the finance payment of the asset. What they want us to do is to run a bunch of cash flow for them and make their own flying less expensive.
Got it. So it's almost like you use it, and then if you can get the plane to almost pay for itself, then you're really winning.
That's the best scenario. And
that's the best scenario.
That's what we go after is that, if I can cover all the costs, hit the payment, and then cash flow to the owners, which helps them defray the cost of their own private flying, then that's where we like to be.
And has that been, over the last few years, would you say that's been an easier kind of target to achieve, or has it been tougher than past years?
Since COVID, it's been significantly easier. I don't know if the number is correct for sure or not, but I've read a number of articles that allude to the same thing, that prior to COVID, about 20% of the people who could fly private did fly private. And once COVID happened, that number increased to about 40%, which is twice as many customers. Now, we have seen our business basically triple since COVID. So I would have to agree with numbers in that range. And we don't see many people falling out either. So COVID for us really increased our business, and it's made it a lot easier for us to make money with the airplanes for the owners.
It's interesting because the high net worth individuals that are your customers are probably similar to some of my customers in real estate. And during that same period of time, what we found was that families and people, they wanted control of their lifestyle.
Sure.
They didn't want to leave it up to commercial chance or the regulations of when they land somewhere. And so they took it upon themselves to purchase many properties, multiple properties. So they may have a home base here in Vegas, but they have a beach home maybe in California or Hawaii, maybe a mountain home in Park City. And so the resort markets we found in the real estate world have exploded in the last few years. And in order to access those points, obviously that's where you come into play. Does that seem
Yeah.
consistent with what you're seeing on your end?
Absolutely. We've seen an explosion of flights going into places like Aspen and Tahoe and up into Bozeman. There's a lot of, I don't know what you resort destinations, I guess that you would call them. And I think there's a direct correlation. Your clients are definitely looking to buy and own and control their experience so that they don't get shut out during COVID or some other emergency that could happen.
And what's interesting, I think you mentioned that I remember the story you told me about going into Aspen, not during winter when, of course, you expect planes, but you went in the middle of a summer. and what did you see?
Oh, it's just more planes on the ramp than I've maybe ever seen over the last, like last summer. I think Aspen may have been one of the busiest destinations in the world. It was amazing. Yeah.
Well, kind of shifting gears for a minute, I want to kind of get back into like the fleet of planes that you have. Obviously, you have a number of planes to serve different needs. And I know you could probably spend all day on this, Greg. You know everything about planes. Is there a category of planes, or how would you kind of segment out for those that really don't know a ton about planes and are kind of wondering, why do you buy a plane that's this size versus this size? Give us a small overview of the planes that you have here.
Sure. Well, I mean, we've got everything from a VLJ, which is a very small aircraft, mainly good for flying an hour to an hour and a half with a small group of people, all the way up to what's called an ultra long range aircraft, like this Gulfstream 550 behind me. That's a 13-hour nonstop aircraft and it holds 14 people.
Yeah, let's talk more about this particular plane behind us. Obviously, it's a pretty gorgeous plane. You said 13 hours nonstop. Is that literally 13 hours of flying time, or
Yeah.
and so give it kind of the outer limits of where you could fly without stopping with this plane?
You're getting Vegas to Greece. It's going to depend a little bit on the winds and things that are happening, but that's about how far you'll go. Vegas to Greece. Yeah.
Fantastic. And as far as capacity, you said it seats how many?
That one's 14. Our other one's 18.
Okay. Now, is it just seats, or with a cavity that large, are there sleeping areas? Are there other things that you can, do with that space?
The seats are berthable. So for every 2 seats in a club, you can turn them into a single bed.
Okay.
And then there's a table area that also goes down and turns into a slightly larger bed that you could put 2 people on if you wanted to.
Yep. And approximately, what is the range of investment for maybe a plane of this size? And then also, if you were to rent a plane of that nature, what's a general range of cost for that?
The asset is always kind of a moving target. As you know, with real estate,
Sure.
things are going up and down. Right now, prices are up a little bit. I would say if you're going to get into a late model G5 or an early model G550, you're somewhere like 14 million to 18 million.
Okay.
And obviously it goes up from there.
All right. And then the proportionate, like hourly rate is going to.
Yeah,
It's
it
gonna
follows
be,
the plane. So with these ones, it's about $8,000 an hour.
Okay.
And they have minimums on them, so you're going to charge at least $16,000 a day for the airplane to go with
Right,
you.
just to get it going.
Yeah.
Now, so that's considered your heavies? Is that considered like
That's
kind
an
of-
ultra long range. So then below that, we have heavy jets,
Okay.
which most of those will fly all of them will fly less than 10 hours.
Okay.
They'll also have big cabins, not usually quite as big as this one. They're good for going to Hawaii, going to the Bahamas, going into Central America, up to Alaska. We have lots of people go up there and go fishing. very comfortable, nice and wide. They usually hold somewhere between 9 and 14 people.
Okay. And then how about the medium bodies jets?
The medium is kind of interesting. Most of the, say, super mid aircraft, which is one below heavy, are 8 passengers, but then we also have our Challenger 850, which is the same range as a super mid, but it is a bigger cabin than this aircraft. It's a huge cabin. It's the same as the Global Express, so it's 15 passengers.
Yep. And those are what, 6-8 million, something like that?
Yeah, those ones are actually surprisingly affordable. They're based off of the CRJ 200, so there's more of them around. And yeah, you're probably 6 to 10 million to get into those
10
ones.
million. And what are the trade-offs inside that range? Because that's kind of where, let's say, the planes converge is in the kind of this middle category, right? They're sizable enough to get around, but they're not obviously huge, long range jets. I think you mentioned too, how are they for, if it's from an investment grade, how are they, number one? And then what are the general trade-offs inside that class that people are generally making decisions over when they're deciding on one plane versus another?
Yeah, I mean, it usually comes down to price point. I find in the mid jets, if you get a lower priced aircraft, it probably won't cash flow quite as well because its operating cost is going to be a little bit higher. Perhaps it's not quite as desirable on the charter market, so then you can't get as high revenues for it. So planes like our Citation XLS, which is a great mid-sized jet, that airplane is under such demand. It just makes money every month. It's just go, go, go nonstop, and it doesn't break. It's a great plane, but it doesn't go that far. It's only a 4.5-hour plane. Whereas you look at a Lear 60 or a Hawker 900, they will go further, but they won't earn quite as much money in the charter market. So it depends on where your price point is and what your actual mission, like what do you want to do as the owner of the airplane? And I always tell our people to think about their 90%, maybe 95% of their use cases, because the last 5% that you might imagine you want to do could be really expensive. I mean, stepping up from a heavy jet to an ultra long range is a large jump in price. Stepping up from a mid to a super mid or a heavy is a large jump in price. So perhaps it's better to just charter for the last 5% of your needs.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, one of the things I want to talk about as well, I'd be remiss to say, not only have you run a successful business, congratulations there, but you're definitely part of the fabric of Las Vegas community. And you've donated an immense amount to charities. Share with me kind of how that got started, and is that even part of your business model?
Over time, it's become part of our model. We started, back when I was in university, I was involved in a lot of charities, and in Canada, I was involved in a lot of charities. I just sort of believe it's the right thing to do. And so when we first came down here, we recognized fairly quickly that because of the tourist nature of Vegas, we had a lot of empties going the other direction. So for charity winners or buyers here in Vegas, we could offer our service on those empty legs without it costing us a lot of money.
Yeah.
So then we started to do this in a number of charities, and it proved to be a pretty successful package and exciting package for people. And we've continued over the years. And partially because of the exposure we got doing that, we realized that all of our customers are at a lot of high-end charity events. And so then we get a lot of exposure that way, which is great. And now to your point earlier, we're trying to offer more experience packages and things like flying to Napa for a weekend, flying to the Indy 500 because we work with McLaren, things that you understand that your customers want as well as the charter customers.
And I can tell you, over the years, we've thrown some really enjoyable events and raised, a good amount of money. Thank you so much for that support. Because on the real estate side, when we bring other luxury goods and pair it with planes, everybody wins, right? The charity wins, the people have a great time, and they give back to the community. And I can tell you, from someone that's been in the space as well, really enjoy this aspect of it. And it's enjoyable, but the people we meet are have been pretty cool over the years, huh?
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It does good, and it's a lot of fun. So how can you say no?
Absolutely. So again, I wanted to thank you so much for spending the time here with us today. I think our audience should be fascinated by what's going on in the aviation world. Everybody wants to know what's going on with exotic cars and yachts and planes. But there's also a really practical side that we learn in terms of for customers that are seriously considering or want to know more about private air travel. So where do they go to kind of research and look you up if they have more questions?
I mean, I think they should go to Randy Char and they can ask him and they can connect us. But
Absolutely. Well, that's one way. Obviously, cirrusaviation.com too. So.
Our website is Cirrus, CIRRUS, and then AV, alphavictor.com.
Greg, thanks for your time, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.